All because of a blanket. This is quite a long story. This happened last July, while me and my boyfriend's family were on vacation in Carolina Beach, North Carolina. Every year, my boyfriend's family rents a pretty nice beach house for a week around July and takes a vacation. This was my first year being invited. It's beautiful, a lovely peach color, 4 bedrooms, and only a block off the beach. I'm not sure how to explain this. I'm sure there's a term, but the house is on what seems like stilts, and you can park your car underneath the house. It's exposed and completely open below the house, so it's not a garage. We parked our car down there. There was a table for hanging out the laundry room and also a private enclosed outdoor shower down there as well. The house had 2 upstairs porches, just to walk up the steps from the car to get to the porch doors into the beach house. Now, directly across our beach house is a little mom and pop restaurant. To the left is a gas station, and to the right is a 24/7 laundromat. The main porch is facing the restaurant. You can see all these places from underneath the house and the porch. It's pretty open. This is normally a pretty quiet tourist town, and the family has been coming here for years, and had never had any issues before. I swear this is all important later. It's our next to last day on vacation, and the landlord of the house has always been good to the family, so we wash all the bed sheets for him, including a heavy down comforter that needs to go to a laundromat instead of our washer and dryer. Boyfriend's mom and I take the blanket over to the laundromat at around 10 p.m. at night. We stay out on the porch to watch the laundromat and make sure no one comes and steals our blanket. We're checking on the blanket, and it's taken way longer than we originally thought. It needed washed twice on the longest setting to get clean, apparently. By the time we put it in the dryer, it's 1 a.m. Somewhere between 10 and 1, a maintenance man shows up and is working on a few of the machines. He's nice, says, Hi, how are you? Don't use these 3 machines as they've been running subpar. We go back to the house and the family joins us, all sitting on the porch drinking, talking about how we're about to leave and generally having a good time. It's 2:15 a.m. now, and boyfriend's mom asked me to go check on the blanket and run it another time if necessary. I have a bad feeling for some reason, blamed it on the booze, and asked if my boyfriend's dad could do it. Boyfriend's dad is a pretty huge guy, and is scary as hell if you don't know him. He says fine, goes and runs it a little longer. Now, the boyfriend and me are pretty avid marijuana smokers. His family doesn't care, so we go in the private outdoor shower, lock the door, and start toking away. There's a seat in there separate from the shower part, so we just chill there. A few minutes later, we heard some loud banging from the laundromat. We go out and see that the maintenance man is still there, say whatever, and go back to smoking. At exactly 2:27, I was playing on my phone. We hear someone scream in a panicked voice. What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck, dude? We head out the outdoor shower and see a man booking it across the street towards our house, cuts through our yard and runs right beside the shower. The maintenance man runs to his car and whips out of the laundromat and turns down the road, away from our house, hits a parked car, continues screeching down the street, and finally wrecking. We can't see the car, we just heard a loud crash. We go upstairs to everyone on the porch and we're like, did you see that? Did you see that? What just happened? We call the police and they're there within 5 minutes. One cop goes down the road to the accident. There's a shoe and some other stuff on the road, and the laundromat door is still hanging, wide open. The police tape everything off, and being so close, we hear their radio and there's blood everywhere, and they need to call others as well to come to the scene. 2 more cops show up. Now there's 4 cops in this little laundromat parking lot. We give them our side of the story, the full story. They cannot physically write most of us as witnesses as we were drinking, but they still want to know what we saw. They start searching for weapons where the one guy ran, which was mainly through our yard. Me and my boyfriend are freaking out because not only did we smoke a lot of bud right there, but we also were smoking right when the guy ran past us. The cops don't keep us updated on anything at all. We got some looks from them for the smell, but they didn't say anything. After they complete their investigation, we see a cleaning crew come and then they lock the laundromat doors. We see in the newspaper the next day that a homeless man came in and stabbed the maintenance guy and was trying to rob him in the process. When the maintenance guy got a good swing on the guy, he ran out and away towards the beach. The police found the homeless guy a few blocks away. I guess the maintenance guy was trying to get to the laundromat's owner's house. Not sure why. Also a few blocks in the other direction when he got into his car. The maintenance guy got taken to the hospital and was okay. The homeless man obviously got taken to prison. I'm really glad that I asked my boyfriend's dad to go check on the blanket instead, because I just missed being in the laundromat during this whole ordeal by less than 20 minutes. After all the commotion was gone, we all felt like we deserved a big blunt and a few stiff drinks, then locked the doors and went to bed. Nothing else happened for the rest of our vacation. So, homeless guy who really needed some money, let's not meet. Ever. Run, sexy. I'm a petite woman in my early 20s, living in an apartment across the river from a college town. The area where I live is mostly populated by blue-collar workers and working-class families, so a young woman like me is a rare sight and tends to invite a lot of catcalls and other unwanted attention. Usually it's just whistlers or honks from passing cars harmless enough. These incidences didn't start scaring me until this past summer. 3 blocks from my apartment is the laundromat, where my roommates and I wash our clothes. It's open 24/7 and has free Wi-Fi, so we used to bring our laptops there to goof off while we waited on the machines. One night after we got there, we realized we didn't have enough cash on us to run the loads. We decided that I would walk to the convenience store a block and a half away to get cash from the ATM inside, while my roommate stayed behind with the laptops. I ventured out into the hot summer night in short shorts and a tank top. The convenience store sits on a fairly busy one-way that funnels traffic over from across the river, and as I headed back, cash acquired, I had my back to this road. Suddenly I heard screaming from behind me. I spun around to see a white pickup truck packed with guys yelling at me out the windows as they sped by. I heard one shout, "Run, sexy," before disappearing over the horizon. Even though the jump scare had me shaken and upset, I figured it was just another drive-by incident and continued to the laundromat. The Wi-Fi wasn't working that night, and shortly after I returned, my roommate had got fed up with it and decided to take our laptops back home. This time I stayed behind with the clothes, all alone. Our laundry was in the dryers when a white pickup truck pulled into the parking lot outside. It stalled there, not parking, not even turning its lights off, for what felt like half an hour. And since it was so dark outside at that moment, I couldn't see anyone in the truck, and I couldn't tell if anyone ever got out. A couple people wandered in to buy stuff from the vending machines inside the laundromat during this time, but I don't think they were from the truck. Eventually my roommate came back. I pointed the truck out to her, and she sat with me until it finally drove away. She told me I didn't need to worry as long as I was with her, because she's 6'3" and carries a cane. She has EDS. Even so, I slept with a baseball bat beside me that night. It took me a few weeks to not jump at the sound of car horns or revving engines. The Wi-Fi was back in working order within a month, but by then, my roommate had gotten in the habit of just staying home with the laptops. The night air had also gone colder, which aggravated her already severe joint pain. She couldn't go with me anymore. I still go to the laundromat by myself. Creep and the rinse cycle. I was reading through a lot of these posts, and they reminded me of this thing that happened to me when I was 19 years old. I was attending the Art Institute of Phoenix in 2009. I had recently gone through a bad breakup, and had to move from my nice gated apartment community to this cheaper and shady one across the street. Phoenix has this weird thing where you can live in a nice street or area, but cross the street and you'll be in a really shitty one. The area I lived in, Sunny Slope, was not very nice and is known for its rough edges. When I moved into that crappy studio, I had all sorts of things happen. My car was broken into, and I had a pair of Converse and a cat carrier stolen. My bike was stolen from my patio. My friend was mugged twice in 1 week. A woman came to my school after being sexually assaulted and looked for help. Drug deals and gunfire from the park behind the complex, etc., etc. Now, like I said, rough neighborhood. But I was young and had a devil-may-care attitude about my own mortality and lived my life accordingly. Which brings me to my near miss. I still get goosebumps when I think on it. My classes were afternoon and evening classes, and as such, I was a night owl. I go to class around 1 p.m., stay until 10 p.m., go home to do homework and just chill, and go to bed around 5 a.m. As a regular 19-year-old on my own, I wasn't good about cleaning, and my laundry had built up eventually. One night, I had had enough of the mess, gathered a garbage bag full of clothes, and went to the apartment complex 24-hour laundry room. It was located near the front by the office and was rather secluded. I had gone there late at night before, though, and I wasn't worried about it. I put my laundry in and was sitting on the counter reading a book. I didn't want to leave my laundry because I did not want it stolen, and was set to hang out for an hour or so. Now, about 20 minutes in, though, I heard a noise. I looked up to see this guy, 30-something, short and stocky, dark-skinned, like he was in the sun a lot. He walked in, looked at me, and then went to the other side and looked down it. I figured he was just checking his laundry or something like that, but now thinking about it in hindsight, I think he was checking to see that no one else was there at all. He came back around and stood at the end of the aisle. The layout of the place was such. The door was at the west side, and the aisle that I was on led directly from it. 2 rows of machines split the room, and there was the aisle on the other side. The walls were ringed by counters with windows all around, and they were blocked by bushes. I was sitting in the very back of the room, down the first aisle. That's where I was. The guy stood at the end of the aisle, blocking the door now. He stares at me for a beat. By now, I'm kind of feeling nervous, to be honest, but figured, hey, I'd play it cool, and just kept reading. "Hello there," he said, with a very thick Hispanic accent. I looked up, mumbled hi with a polite nod, and looked back down at my book, but kept my eye on him still. I wasn't worried about rape or anything of that moment, because I was overweight and thought wrongly that I was safe from that sort of thing. Of course, knowing the psychology of rape better now, I was wrong, but at the time, I figured I was safe, in the way I looked. I worried that he was going to try to rob me, though, and take all my money. He walked closer to me, his motions kind of off, like he couldn't really figure out how to walk, like he was awkward, you know? "What you reading?" he asked. He was about 10 feet from me now. I casually mentioned the book in that polite but disinterested in conversation tone. He smiled and said something I couldn't understand through his accent. I said, "Huh? Do you have a boyfriend?" He said again, and I was seriously getting creeped out by now. I lied and said, "Yeah, I do." "Oh yeah? Where is he?" "At home. He just got home from playing football. He'll be down soon with his laundry." He, meanwhile, had gotten closer and was now just a foot or so away from me. His eyes were completely dilated, and I knew he was probably a tweaker or something of that sort, you know? I had major danger alarms going off at this moment, but I was essentially pinned in there, unable to move. I pulled my legs up onto the counter and pressed into the corner as far from him as I could go. I just knew that this was going to end badly. I could see he had something in his pocket, probably a gun or a knife, but I figured if I could keep him talking in friendly, polite conversation, maybe somehow I get a window to escape the situation. "You're really pretty," he mumbled. "You sure you got a boyfriend?" I nodded and said, "Yeah, he'll be here soon." He reached out as if to touch me, but then wavered some more. My timer went off and I said, "I gotta move my clothes." He nodded, stepped off, and keeping my face towards him, I went to open the door, which then blocked us. I figured if he charged at me or something like that, at least he'd trip up on the door or something. I was freaking out internally, trying to find a way out of this situation, when suddenly, this chola girl comes in. Like a stereotypical chola, complete with bandana and drawn-on eyebrows. She looked tough, covered in tattoos, not someone to tangle with. She comes straight to me and says, "Hey chica, you almost done? You gotta miss the movie," she said, like she knew me. I caught on and said, "Yeah, just throwing them in the dryer." The guy looked at her, then at me, and mumbled something and took off. The girl said, "Hey, you okay? I live right there and have seen this dude lurking around lately, following some of the other women here. I was smoking and saw him through the window, thought I'd check," or something along those lines. My legs were weak from fear and I felt sick, but I said he hadn't done anything to me. Saying fuck it to dry my clothes, I shoved them in my bag, and she walked with me back to my apartment. She told me to meet her at the office the next day, where we reported the dude. Apparently, he'd been reported by a few other women for lurking around, but despite the CCV and the cop, they got to hang out for a while. He never showed up again. Probably moved to another complex to harass more people, more girls, more women. Now, needless to say, I never ever did my laundry that late again, and was a lot more aware that anything could happen to anyone if you're not careful. So, creepy tweaker potential rapists, let's not meet ever again. How my grandparents decided to get a washer and dryer. Disclaimer: any formatting errors are due to me posting this through Chrome on my Android. So, this is not a mega creepy encounter, just a silly one that would still be universally unsettling to anyone, and I'm sure no one would want to get mugged. So, it's about 1973 to 1974, and concerns my grandmother and mother in a suburb of Hartford, Connecticut. At the time, my mother was roughly 12 years old, and my grandmother was pregnant with my mom's youngest sibling. My grandparents didn't have a clothes washer or a dryer in the house, and my grandfather always vetoed them getting one, as they lived closer to the laundromat, as he saw those appliances in his house as an unnecessary expense, as they've gone on fine without it, and he had 3 kids to pay for, with one more on the way. So on one day, my grandmother takes my mom to the laundromat as usual, and it's right next to a dimly lit train station in a shady part of the town. My mom and grandmother do the laundry and leave. On the way out, my mom sees a man she didn't think looked right. He was just sketchy and something was just off. It just set my mom off about this guy. My mom kept begging my grandmother to go back in the laundromat and ask my grandfather to come pick them up. My grandmother is a naive person to the world, and certainly wouldn't expect a guy to mug a visibly pregnant woman with a 12-year-old child. So she just insisted her and my mother to keep walking. The guy followed them, looking like nothing more than a detached shadow on the dimly lit street behind them. The guy's footsteps sped up behind them, but my mother trusted my grandmother and continued walking on. Then, before they knew it, the guy sped up behind them and tried to swipe my grandmother's purse off her shoulder, as you see in the movies or on a TV show, and take off. Fortunately, and actually kind of humorously, as he grabbed the purse, the strap to the purse snapped off the purse itself, and the guy only got away with the strap and not the purse itself. I guess he was afraid of being identified at that moment, so he just kept running away, thinking or hoping he had the purse, and that he wouldn't have seen his face. The next day, my grandfather decided to get a washer and dryer, and never again did they go to the laundromat.